gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
This is SBF, Styles Break Fights, with your hosts, Chinyere Okafor and Ray Williams, presented by the Nefarious Media Network.
Hi. It's your boy Two-Way Ray Williams.
And it's your girl, the Maestro Chi.
And we're back again with another installment of the Styles Break Fights podcast, June 2025. Chi, how you doing?
I'm good, Ray. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, despite my nation being on the brink of war. I'm doing okay. I'm trying. But no politics talk today. We're gonna try to keep it light, and keep it fresh, and keep it funky for all you good folks out there. I don't know why I'm giving all the 1980s, 1990s lingo, but we got a big podcast, a big show up for you guys. As I was telling Chi off air, I had all this stuff planned for us to talk about. We were going to go into UFC 316, kind of take a look back in order to jump forward and look at UFC 317, which is coming up this coming Saturday. We're going to look at the things like the events happening during this international fight week. We're going to look back at some prior fights, not only from UFC 316, but from some of the fight cards as far as the fight night cards, whether it be Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley, or whether it be the fight that was supposed to happen between Macy Barber and Aaron Blanchfield. But something superseded that. You see, this past Saturday, there was another UFC Fight Night card in Baku, Azerbaijan. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Where we had Jamal Hill, former UFC light heavyweight champion contender, going off against another former contender in Khalil Roundtree Jr. Basically, Khalil Roundtree washed him. He pretty much just broke him down with lead kits and dropped him a few times, and pretty much Jamal Hill didn't have a shot. But if you want to go ahead and look at that fight, go ahead, pull up your ESPN Plus and go ahead and watch it on your own. That's not the big story. The big story was involving the post-fight press conference afterwards. You see, Dana White, who's been pretty conspicuously absent from a few of these press conferences, decided to make his presence felt when he came through for Baku. And it was about 10, 11 questions deep when one particular question came up about the UFC heavyweight division. So let me go ahead and pull that up. And yeah, folks, this was back again. This is during, I believe they were like a few hours, like 6-7 hours ahead of you. They might be around your time compared to me, Chi, as far as Baku, Azerbaijan. So it was pretty much in the middle of the morning, or like at the break of dawn, when this was going out to a half full crowd, or a half full press room. So let me go ahead and share this. And yeah, this is one question that came up about the heavyweight division and the future of the heavyweight division. So wrong one. That's a response afterwards. Let me go ahead and get to Dana. There he is.
Hello, Dana.
Hi.
I'd like to ask you a question about, like, on the heavyweight front, you recently set a deadline for Jon Jones to face Tom Aspinall or risk losing the title. And with that situation evolving, what criteria are you using to decide uphold legacy by waiting for Jones or prioritize division activity by clearing the belt?
You said the timeline for Jones, 2 weeks to decide what to do with the title, whether it takes the fight or you're going to strip him. What do you think is more important, to keep the belt there so he can uphold his legacy, or we move the heavyweight division, take the title away from him?
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we will pause it right there. A few things stood out to me in that exchange, Sister Chi Chi. One thing was, I don't know why they have to keep repeating the questions now. I don't know if that was a new thing about having somebody repeat the questions just in case somebody didn't hear it, but I don't know, man. I something annoying about why he just heard me. I have a microphone. I'm sure he can hear me. Second off, you could see Dana was already having his answer compiled in his head, and why it took this long for him to say something within the press conference was crazy. And third of all, like, just the audible gasp, like someone after he drops that bomb and someone's in the background like, oh. So, Chi-Chi.
And the third thing that I could add there is Dana White's expression. You can see that he's not entirely happy about this.
Of course.
I mean, that's his boy, isn't it? So there's that.
So I know you kind of you dropped a little story on your IG. You were just like, wow, what the so where were you when you heard this news? Like, what were you doing? Because I think it was probably around the morning time of your time too, right?
Yeah. So on Saturday, I was in bed and just, going through it and whatever. But then my brother invites me out to go to Aquila Boxing Promotions Fistic Havoc event, right? So as I come back from that, when you like get back home and you start scrolling on your phone just to see what's happening, because like I missed the event, right? And the event ended at midnight this side here in South Africa. So that's when the press conference starts and everything. And it's at this point that I actually come across this, like from the ESPN page. And so like I think literally they just dropped it like 2 minutes ago when I saw it. And I was like, wait, what? Like literally, because I'm like, stay side. If you're joking, say side right now. But yeah, like it was just madness. I was just like, how? Damn, like really, like yeah. I was shocked to say the least. Where were you, Ray?
I was, because I didn't see it until midnight my time, and then like it was just flooding over social media, and that's when I saw your post, because I believe it might have came out even earlier, but that's when I saw on your post, and I was like, oh Lord. It's like I was a bit surprised, but I wasn't shocked, and we'll probably get into that as well. As far as I didn't see any chance, especially with an interview that Jon Jones had done about a week ago, where he pretty much was not intimating any interest. And just like this whole roller coaster that we've been on with this, it's just been crazy. So I was a little surprised, but I wasn't shocked, to use your term. I kind of suspected that we wouldn't be seeing him for a while now, or ever again. So with that, or at least ever again in the combat sports arena or within MMA. So with that, we have a specific, or not specific, but we have official word from Jon Jones via his X account, his Twitter account. And he says the following: today I'm officially announcing my retirement from the UFC. This decision comes after a lot of reflection, and I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for the journey I've experienced over the years. From the first time I stepped into the octagon, my goal was to push the boundaries of what was possible in this sport. Becoming the youngest UFC champion in history, defending my title against some of the best fighters in the world, and sharing unforgettable moments with fans across the globe. These are memories I'll cherish forever. I faced incredible highs and some tough lows, but every challenge has taught me something valuable and made me stronger, both as a fighter and as a person. I want to thank the UFC, Dana, Hunter, Lorenzo, God, my family, coaches, teammates, and all the fans who have stood by me through every chapter. Your unwavering support and belief in me have been my foundation. To my fellow fighters, thank you for bringing out the best in me and for the respect we've shared inside and outside the cage. As I close this chapter of my life, I look forward to new opportunities and challenges ahead. MMA will always be a part of who I am, and I'm excited to see how I can continue to contribute to the sport and inspire others in new ways. Thank you all for being a part of this incredible journey with me. The best is yet to come. And with that, and I'll also throw it to Tom Aspinall's response to this news.
Right, everyone, the news has broken. I'm sure everybody's seen it. UFC undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Moving forward, very, very important to me, just that I acknowledge everybody quickly who has supported me in this. I'm not going to say it was a tough time, but a bit of a challenging time over like the last kind of 10, 11 months that I have been inactive due to no fault of my own. But luckily, that is all behind us now. Massively appreciate the support from everybody. Massively appreciate the support going forward. I'm going to keep this thing as active as possible. I want to be the best heavyweight ever to walk the face of the earth. I'm going to defend this thing as many times as I possibly can. I'm going to keep you guys entertained. I'm going to really give back to everybody who has shown me support over the last year, over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years. Really appreciate the support and love from everybody. And we're going to see an active defending UFC heavyweight undisputed champion going forward. Thank you guys. And I'll speak to you soon.
All right. So with that, Chi, I guess I'll ask you the question that's on the minds of all mixed martial arts fans right now. Did Jon Jones duck Tom Aspinall with this news?
Oh, 100%. Definitely. Like, this is the ultimate ducking, my guy. Ultimate ducking. Come on now. Yeah, like, I feel like we all knew that it wasn't going to happen. Like, no matter how much money they offered him, man, Turkey al-Sheikh himself could have been like, yo, I'm going to fight this fight. Jon Jones, how much do you want? He would have given him however much money he wanted, but Jon Jones was never going to take that fight. Never going to. And I do feel like his heart was no longer in the sport, if I'm being quite honest. I feel as though he kind of tarnished his reputation or his legacy by coming back and capturing the heavyweight title, right? Because when he captured against Cyril Gane, I feel like we were also excited. It was such a great match, such a great display of dominance and everything like that. But then thereafter, yeah, no, it wasn't cute. It wasn't cute. So I kind of do feel like that a little bit. But yeah, do you feel like he was ducking? Do you feel like this is the ultimate ducking from Jon Jones?
I would tend to agree, but I will say it's less of him ducking because he was quote unquote scared of Tom Aspinall, and more because of what you said. I think his heart is no longer in the sport. I feel as though with all the responses that he's had, when he talks about how is it ducking if I'm the greatest, how is it ducking if I have a legacy, or he's not important to me, or I don't find him exciting and all this other stuff. And it kind of shows that he's lost a hunger to be the best anymore. He wants to go by legacy fights, and he's clearly voiced that he wants to continue fighting. He just doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall because in his mind, Tom Aspinall isn't a big name to get people riled up into the fight. Where in the contrary, it's like they're the two best heavyweights right now in the world. Like, who wouldn't want to see that as far as like within the UFC division? And there's one conspicuous absence from this, from this being known as the best heavyweight in the world. And we'll talk about that particular person a little later. But I feel as though, yeah, the fight can sell itself. You got the guy who's supposed to be the greatest of all time, which we'll get into later as well, versus the young up and comer who's already the number one contender and is essentially the reigning and defending champion, who's been, at least up into like the last year, has been actively fighting until up in the last year, where he's waiting for this unification. Yeah, for Bones. So I think, and it's a famous saying from American boxing from Marvelous Marvin Hagler. It goes to, and I'm paraphrasing, but it goes to the point of, it's hard to get up in the morning and run 3 miles when you're sleeping in satin sheets. I think Jon Jones has gotten comfortable. He's said it several times before. I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. So I think he's lost that hunger. And it's funny how he doesn't see himself, or how he doesn't see Tom Aspinall or himself inside of a Tom Aspinall, because this was where Jon Jones was 14 years ago. In 2011, where he was the young up and coming guy, and Mauricio Shogun could have said, "I'm not taking this young killer on short notice, and I'm not doing all this for this guy. He's coming up." Like the same stuff that he's spouting out, those guys back then could have spouted out, but they had an obligation as champion to defend it against whoever comes up. And so I don't think he recognizes that obligation anymore. He thinks that he's above that obligation, being quote unquote the greatest of all time. So yeah, I think it's less about him being scared of Tom Aspinall personally, and more about not having the hunger, not having the fire to get up and push himself for a young lion who's trying to supplant him and trying to beat him in some aspects. So
Ray, you don't think Jon Jones at any point had a little bit of fear in him when it comes to like Tom Aspinall and stuff? Because I think Jon Jones kind of looked at his record, looked at his legacy, right? In terms of that, like, he's fought so many people. He had one loss, but like, we all know how that loss went. Other than that, he's just had a stellar career. And here's this guy who could be the biggest threat to that legacy, to that unbeaten record kind of vibe. And maybe even more so than like a Cyril Gahn, So you don't think he had any fear at all when it comes to Tom Aspinall?
It's hard for me to say that there's fear with a man who's just he's fought all comers before. I think, and again, he's looked so dominant in all of his fights, including the one that he quote unquote lost by technicality, by a rule that it has now been expunged.
Ray?
everyone knows the ego of Jon Jones. So I find it very hard to believe that he doesn't think, or he's not 100% confident in his abilities to think that he could find a way to beat Tom Aspinall. Now, could that have played a factor? Like, could he have maybe been like, well, I can't, because we all know through the history of Jon Jones, like he's been able to skate. He's been able to dominate even when doing all of this other stuff outside of the cage, like whether it comes to partying and different substances that he's been putting into his body, but he's still been able to fight the next week and still come out on top and relatively in a dominant fashion. Now, I can tell you that there might be some belief as far as, especially when it comes to a story that came pretty much immediately after the announcement of his retirement, that he's still dabbling in these things to take him off focus, and that he might feel as though, oh, this stuff might end up catching up with me, and I'm not trying to have it catch up with me and Tom Aspinall be like the beneficiary of it. So I could see something like that being cause for concern for him. But as far as him being scared of Tom Aspinall himself, I don't think there's any fear there.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's just my spin.
I think you're right though with regards to like the story, because I think that story broke like a couple hours later, and I remember I had to write a script about it yesterday for work, and as I was writing the script, I was literally like, "Yo, like this timing of this retirement announcement, what was it like? One of those things that like he knows that it's about to come out and be public, or what is happening there?" But yeah.
Yeah, and for those who are unaware, I'll go ahead and pull it up now. All right.
Yeah.
So immediately following this announcement, there was a report from someone doing news in Albuquerque, which is the home city for Jon Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to not dig up, but able to discover some information about Jon Jones facing a criminal charge based on an alleged hit and run / vehicular accident in February of this year. So Jon Jones facing criminal charge accused of leaving the scene of an accident. So let me go ahead and scroll down. We all know who Jon Jones looked like. All right. On the same day, and this is by our friends who are aggregating some news, but by our friends at Post Wrestling. Shout out to John Pollock, Wade Team. On the same day that Jon Jones confirmed his retirement from MMA, it's been reported that Jones is facing yet another legal incident. The Albuquerque Journal reported on Saturday that Jones, 37, faces a misdemeanor charge of leaving the scene of an accident earlier this year. A criminal summons accusing Jones of the charge was filed this past Tuesday. The incident is said to have occurred in February when an officer for the Albuquerque police was called on the scene of an accident and found a woman in the passenger seat who appeared to be intoxicated and not fully clothed, according to the criminal complaint. The woman alleged that the driver of the vehicle was Jones, but he left the scene. She proceeded to call Jones, and the police service aide believed it was Jones on the line and that he, quote, appeared to be heavily intoxicated and made statements implying his capacity to employ lethal force through third parties, end quote. The man on the phone would not confirm if he was Jones. And then there's a quote from the Albuquerque Journal. When interviewed in person a few days after the crash, Jones said the woman found in the car had left his house earlier in the day intoxicated and called him after getting in the crash, at which time Jones said the person she handed the phone to, quote, immediately opened the conversations with unprofessional language which led him to doubt the legitimacy of the individual's claim, end quote. The woman later told police she drank alcohol and consumed mushrooms at the Jones's house, and recalled needing to change her clothes at his house, and quote, her next recollection was being at the scene of the traffic incident, or end quote. She said the last person she remembered driving her car was Jones, the court record indicated. Police said Jones called the woman's phone 13 times from the time of the crash until 11:34 a.m. the following morning, and that text messages from his phone were included, though could not be, quote, captured, end quote, in call detail records. So I believe there might be more. All right, Jones is scheduled for a bond arraignment on July 24th, which is 5 days after his 38th birthday. And so we'll go into all the legal history that he's had in the past. Now, his lawyer has come out and called these claims baseless and says Jones was not driving that night. And Jon Jones also, from his X account, quoted the following: keep in mind, and I'll share this. And there's a quote, and it doesn't say where he's gotten the quote from, but he says, keep in mind, even the media can get it wrong sometimes if they don't have all the facts. Don't believe everything you read online, as he posts this online. So what do you think? Do you think it was fairly convenient that this news of the retirement came right before this news involving him with this alleged accident from February this year?
I do think that it was like mighty convenient for him, for Jon Jones, that is. That like the timing of it all and everything like that. Mighty convenient. But also, my other thing is the story, right? Like as you read it out to me right now in terms of like what the incident is said to have been, it doesn't sound too far-fetched from other incidents that we've heard about Jon Jones. You know, I think about that incident where he crashed the car and then like he ran away. Then he came back and he collected like stacks of cash. Then he ran away again. So it's not like it's the first time that he's like being accused of running away from, you know, a vehicular crash. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like there's no way that I'm gonna believe Jon Jones when it's something that's so similar to what he's been accused of before and found guilty of before. So yeah, but I do find it mighty, mighty, mighty convenient that just, you know, the retirement happens, and then soon after that we hear the news of like, oh, BTW in Feb, he kind of sort of got into some trouble. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Do you think the UFC might have known about this beforehand and may have pushed Jones, or do you think this was a situation where Jones pretty much knew it was coming down the pike himself, and that's why he went ahead and contacted Dana?
Ooh.
Because Dana's out here. I think it was the next day at the Fanatics Fest where somebody catches up with him and says, have you heard about the news about him being in illegal trouble? And he's claiming that, it must be, he must have known something was coming down, but I just know he just told us he retired. So he's claiming ignorance, but there's no way that he couldn't have realized that this might have been coming down the pike, especially knowing how both Jon Jones and the UFC are kind of tied with maybe the local law enforcement in the area. So
yeah, but no, man, I don't think the UFC nor Dana White knew specifically about the situation. I do think that Jon Jones himself and his team probably knew that there was something that was going to be exposed soon enough, and before you know it becomes more ammunition for him to be stripped of the title or whatever. You know, might as well just, you know, I'm done, guys. Like I just want to go live out my life in Thailand and do whatever the heck I want to do. So yeah, do you think that like it was like a thing that like he was like, let me put it out there? like with Dana White, or no?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Dana White knew a little bit already. But yeah, I would tend to agree with you as far as the team knowing that this was coming down the pike, and just reaching out beforehand, because we were kind of going back and forth. Dana said, "Oh, the fight is going to happen 100%. The fight is going to happen." And then he's like, "Well, Jones agreed to the fight, and it is going to happen. And then we're going to hear something within 2 weeks. The fight's going to happen. No, come." And then this ends up happening. So, yeah. And it doesn't excuse the fact that while Jon Jones did initially agree to the fight, that from reports, it seems as though he reneged on that and said, "No, I don't want to fight, even though you are going to pay me what I want you to pay me." So, yeah, I just think it's a complicated mess. And you mentioned the legal woes, the former legal woes, or not former legal woes, but the past legal woes of one Jon Jones. You mentioned that particular incident with a pregnant woman in the other car. And we also had an incident right after he became UFC champion where he crashed a car up in Rochester, New York. And it was seen as he had a DUI in that particular instance. There was an instance where he was caught, I think he fell asleep drunk in his car, and the police were kind of talking to him, and they had it on the dash cam, and I believe he was cited for that as well. So just quite a few incidents like where there's smoke, there's fire, and it's like you can't be the one to say don't believe everything you read, kids. Like, dude, this goes hand in hand with stuff that you've done in the past. So come on, it's just, yeah, it's just infuriating just to see this dude. Oh, and lest I forget, I believe there was an incident in a hotel when he was being inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. I believe him and Alexander Gustafsson, their fight was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. And on that weekend, the police came by his hotel room and they interrogated him because of a charge of domestic abuse that was since dropped between him and his longtime girlfriend. So, and to be linked with that, him banging his head into a police car. So, while he was being detained. So, yeah, brother, it's like
not his first rodeo.
Not at all. So, with that, I think we can kind of go into, before we start talking about Tom Aspinall and what he's going to be doing next, I think I wanted to kind of go through the legacy of Jon Jones. And we mentioned the out of the cage stuff. And that's not to mention the several suspensions that he's had from boxing commissions due to having ingested or having used performance enhancing drugs or drugs that fall in line against the anti-doping commissions. So, and I believe that's happened twice. And him being caught with cocaine in his system as well on another test outside of those two tests. So, yeah, I guess I'll pose it to you. If we're looking firmly at In the Cage and at his accomplishments while fighting, do you consider him the greatest MMA fighter of all time?
I think initially I would have said yes, right? I would have said yes, but Ariel Helwani said something the other day on his show. right? And he was like, how can we, like, and obviously I'm just paraphrasing here, but like basically, how can we call Jon Jones the GOAT of MMA when he's got so many PED infractions on his record? Like, yeah, sure, he's got his legal woes outside of the cage, but let's not act like inside the cage he's had a stellar career. You know what I'm saying? And like a flawless career. So kind of becomes a little difficult to fully be like, oh yeah, now crown him, the GOAT of MMA. Cause yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I think at this point, probably right now as I sit here, I probably wouldn't say that he's the GOAT of MMA. I would say he's one of the GOATs of MMA, but I'm not sure if I'd make him like the number one, but like when we're looking at like a Mount Rushmore vibe, then I think definitely he deserves a space there. But yeah. But like same question back to you. Do you consider him the GOAT of MMA?
Well, before you throw your question back at me, I'm going to throw a question back at you. If he's not your GOAT, then who is your GOAT?
No. I don't know, right? Like I think probably like a GSP.
Okay.
I think GSP would be my GOAT. I think.
Which is what Ariel has mentioned as well as his personal GOAT as well. I'm thinking if we just talk, because I know there's not supposed to be PEDs in the conversation, and you want all of your fighters to be clean, but I want to also be living in Hawaii with two beautiful women who serve me non-alcoholic beverages. But we can't always have what we want, ladies and gentlemen. We can't always think of the ideal. And I think when we consider like the history of MMA, there's a lot of people who did get caught up with PEDs. I think I think if we're just going based off of dominance, I would put him up there. Just by the sheer fact that no one was able to figure out a weakness for this man. I would have him up there. As far as
your number one?
As my number one, as far as like pure dominance, as far as like nobody being able to stop this man, I would have him as my number one. Like as far if we're looking in that particular lens or with those particular standards involved. But if I'm looking at just who I loved watching and who I loved performing and who I thought was like, this is an art. Like watching this right now is an art. It's not just people getting beat down and drugged down and elbowed in the face. Like this is art, what I'm watching. My personal GOAT is Anderson Silva forever.
As soon as you were like, this is art, I had a feeling that you were heading towards Anderson Silva because like, yeah.
And I understand he did have a bit of a downfall, especially contributed to that knockout from Chris Weidman and then him breaking his leg and not being the same since. But just as far as like what you kids call aura right now, just the aura around that man when he was in his prime, like he was just unstoppable. And then there would always be like this hypothetical, what if what if GSP fought what if GSP fought Anderson Silva? What would that look like? Who would win? Like I was just like, I was on the side of Anderson Silva the whole way through. Now I do give GSP his props and he's my number two because I know you want to look at, he's had losses and he's had legitimate losses from people, but every loss that he's had, he's avenged every single loss that he's had. He's held 2 championships. He didn't hold up any divisions. If he needed time off, he dropped the belt. He said, I'm taking time off. And then he came back and he won the welterweight belt again. So, but again, as far as looking at pure dominance, I think if Khabib had a longer career. You could put Khabib up there. I think if depending on how things go with Islam, with this welterweight championship fight coming up, if he ends up winning that and then just steamrolling through people, like I think you could put him up there. But right now, just in the realm of dominance, nobody being able to stop him, him having a long reign, I would put Jon Jones up there, like number one top. With that said, I said if we just think of him in the cage, but there's several things, a lot of them self-inflicted, that precluded him from having even a longer reign or a more substantial reign during that time, where he's been suspended for 1 year, 2 years. He's been out on his own accord for like 1 year, 2 years. So I think I'll toss this question to you because I really want to get my thoughts together, because like I mentioned before, I got a lot to get off my chest about this, but I'll pose a question to you. In terms of all of the, like, everything encompassing, like in the cage, out of the cage, what is Jon Jones's legacy to you?
For those who watch wrestling also, I like to liken Jon Jones' career to like that of like a Randy Orton. They both started in their industries very, very young, right? And dominated, absolutely dominated. And so with Jon Jones, I feel like his legacy, as tarnished as it is and whatever, his contributions to MMA cannot be denied, right? They cannot be denied. And he's given us so many great moments, Yeah. And like at some point he was the top star in the promotion, right? Until he became unreliable, of course. But yeah. So I would definitely say that like his legacy is one that has its flaws, but is also one that is of greatness, just exudes greatness, just shows you pure dominance right from the jump all the way up until, I wouldn't say the end, because like this Tom Aspinall situation, yeah. But like for the most part of his career, pure dominance, pure legacy, pure levels to this, So yeah, and I feel like he definitely deserves his props in the world of MMA, not just in the UFC, but like just in the world of MMA in general. A lot of people got into MMA because of Jon Jones, whether it's watching as a fan, whether it's actually doing MMA. And so, yeah, I feel like especially him being like a black man, right? Being a black man in the world of combat sports, in the world of MMA, it was definitely necessary. It was needed, and yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, flawed legacy, but still one of greatness, regardless, and that cannot ever be taken away. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
What about you, Ray? What does Jon Jones' legacy mean to you?
All right. Well, first off, I'll preface this with another question, Chi-Chi. Where were you in March of 2011?
Oh my God! First of all, I was 10 years old. So
you were how old? I'm sorry.
I was 10 years old. I was in 5th grade, and I was just, I didn't even know MMA at the time. So yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. All right. Well, I'll tell you where I was, and this is why I think I don't want to overstate it too much, but I think first off, I was a fan of Jon Jones coming up. Jon Jones, I believe, is maybe about 2 years younger than me, a little more than 2 years younger than me, because he's about to turn 38. I recently turned 40. But back then I want to say 2011. So that's around 26 and he was like 23. And it was actually during my birthday weekend in which he actually won the light heavyweight championship against Mauricio Shogun Hua. And a big thing about that weekend is that was the first and so far only time that I've ever met my father in person. I grew up, my mother was a single mother, and she took care of myself, and I had 2 younger brothers. And like, this was the first time, like, I would always talk to my dad on the phone, but I never got a chance to meet him in person. And so during this particular time, I was like, let me just go ahead and reach out and see if we could finally like break bread together and I could ask him questions and stuff like that. And so it just happened to be during that weekend that fight was going on. And my dad, he kind of knew about MMA a little bit, but like he was mainly like a pro wrestling fan too, but he knew a little bit about MMA. So we were able to order the pay-per-view and watch the pay-per-view together. And so, and I believe even during that weekend, like there was all this hype with Jon Jones because I believe he had stopped. I believe he was, because the fight was taking place in New Jersey and he just happened to be in Central Park in New York like the day before. And he had stopped not a shoplifter, but he had stopped a burglar or a robber, like somebody who just snatched somebody, like a purse snatcher. And he had stopped him, and Greg Jackson, who was one of his coaches at the time, had stopped this robber like literally a day before his fight. And so like there was big hype on Jon Jones, and he won the championship. And I felt like I have seen his rise up. Like I have seen just like where he started from. He was on UFC 100, fighting Stephan Bonner on an undercard, and just seeing this brother develop. And it was just, even though I wasn't a huge fan of his, like I was seeing like this brother has so much untapped potential. Like the world is at this brother's oyster. And so, and I'm glad that you mentioned that him being a black man, being a black American is just like, especially within the MMA space, is like there was only one division that was kind of showcasing like a lot of big time black fighters. And that was the light heavyweight division, where we talk about a Rampage Jackson and we talk about a Jon Jones and a Rashad Evans and Daniel Cormier later on and Anthony Rumble Johnson's. So, but it just seemed something different about Jon Jones. And as he kind of progressed through another thing I've never told anybody was like when he won that title, like Facebook was all the rage back then, Chi. So I sent this brother, and there were no block-ins or nothing. Like you could just like reach out to anybody. So I sent this brother like a really detailed Facebook message. Like I wrote it through my heart, and I was just like it's great to see that you're striving, and that it's great to see that you're coming up with this success. But please be careful, because I was about to go into my Uncle Ben from from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, brother. And so it's just like the world was at his feet. And you mentioned a Randy Orton from WWE.
Yeah.
I think I can compare it to, you could be a Randy Orton and you can make a difference within that particular sport, or you could be The Rock and you could have all of this influence, not just inside the sport, but outside the sport and society. And this brother had it. When I tell you, like when he was continuing to win championship fight after championship fight, like he was getting sponsored by Nike, Chi. He was getting sponsored by Gatorade, Chi. this brother had it all in his hands. And because of because of his own worldly desires, he let it all slip away. And yet he continues to have this ego about himself. And what does it mean for you to be the best in MMA when you could have had this influence not only on fighters of the future, but on entire groups of people outside of fighting? Like, you had that. And so it frustrates me, Chi-Chi, and I'm really trying hard not to cuss or to break down, because it frustrates me, especially with what he claims he represents. Like, you have Philippians 4:13 tattooed on your chest, and I don't know what your religious affiliation, Chi-Chi. I ain't going to try to snatch you or try to turn you one way or the other, but I'm just in the focus of Jon Jones. This is what that verse says. So that verse says, "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." But he loses the core values of that Christian faith when you continue to go down the wrong path on your own accord and then say, "Oh, well, I can do this and I can do that." And there's another verse in Matthew where it talks about, if you are taking up this faith, then you are a light upon the hill, shining to all of those. So you can't be doing the same thing that the world does if there are people that are trying to come up to that light. And so I believe, like, he had the light, and because of his own personal urges and his own vices, he dimmed his light down, and that just frustrates me to no end. And I really wish the best for this brother, because I think, again, outside of MMA, what does he have in order to kind of make himself feel as though he's worth enough? Or what does he have? Of course, he has his family. He should be putting everything into the family that he has, into his children, and into his longtime partner, and into, like, the rest of his family, like his brothers and his mom. So I just hope that he finds worth in himself outside of fighting, because if he doesn't, then things are going to get rocky really fast. And this is nothing to kind of put lightly, and it's nothing for me to kind of say like, "Oh, well, Jon Jones is going to get into this, and this." But it's just, I hope that this brother finds the value in himself outside of the sport, because he keeps talking about his legacy. What does legacy matter if you're out of the sport for years and then nobody's coming up to you to give you like a high five and say, "You're the greatest, you're the best, you're this, you're that"? All the yes men are gone. The money is gone. Like, what do you have left that you can hold on to that can give you hope for the future outside of fighting? And that's all. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But it just pains me. Like, he had everything, Chi-Chi. Like I said, like, all these big time sponsors were not coming into MMA like that before him and before Anderson Silva. Like, Anderson Silva had a little piece. He had Burger King on his shorts, but other than that, like, there was no like big time, like Nike. He had his own T-shirt line with Nike, and it, like, and then when the UFC kind of had Reebok as a sponsor, he went on to Reebok, and they had like an individual deal with him. So it's like, you got to acknowledge and be aware of the impact that you can have on folks, and it's got to be more than just yourself. And sadly, I think Jon Jones is mainly have been thinking about himself, even up to this stuff with John Aspinall. He's talking about, I'm not going to denigrate my legacy by fighting this guy. I'm not going. I've made enough. I'm living by the fruits of my own labor and all this other stuff. So, yeah, I just, like we were saying before, I think is a big time. Like, he's always going to be a big deal within the realm of MMA, but he's always going to be a historic what if when it comes to what this brother could have been if he left all of that nonsense alone.
Most definitely. I know recently we saw like on X, there was like this trend of like drop your biggest like what if in pro wrestling, right? And I feel like when it comes to MMA, he's definitely one of the biggest ones in terms of that. Like, what if he just remained clean and, you know, just stayed out of trouble, essentially? How would his career have gone then and everything like that? But I doubt that it's the last time that we're going to see Jon Jones. I really do doubt it. Just because already I think he got like a co-ownership stake in Dirty Boxing Championship. I think is what it's called, DBX. This other boxing promotion. It's one that Josinho Rosenstraight fought at recently. So I think like Jon Jones got like a young stake there. And I know that he like makes frequent trips over to Thailand to go train with like the youth and everything like that. And so, yeah, I think we're still going to see quite a bit of him. But like in terms of active competition, I doubt it, because at this point, the people that he wants to fight, it's like, yo, you ducked me though the whole time. Like, I know he was trying to call out Francis Ngannou on some, yo, Francis, you and I should run it back. I feel like you're the one on my caliber. And Francis was like, you ducked me though. Like, and that's what a lot of fans were saying, that like you also ducked him. So yeah, there's that. But I definitely don't think it's the last that we'll hear of him. I'm just hoping that it doesn't become another Conor McGregor situation where every time you hear about Conor, it's because he's in some sort of trouble. I don't want that. I really don't want that for Jon Jones. Yeah, like you said, I just hope that he's able to focus on the things that matter: family, business, building his legacy beyond MMA and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned Conor McGregor too. Is like finding that thing outside of fighting that makes you worthwhile. Like, it's a hard thing. Like, he's trying to get into businesses, but then like he just keeps stumbling over himself and over the mistakes that he's making. And I think we may touch on it a little later, but yeah, it's just frustrating to see guys with this potential, and it just seemed like it's downward spirals. But yeah, we talked about Jon Jones. Like I said, he started his MMA career, I want to say back in 2009, 2010 or so. Even maybe a little earlier, I'll say around 2008, 2009. And just up until this point, like when you count up all the time that he's missed, like within that time from then until now, I mean, there's got to be at least a good 5-6 years just off of the suspension times and a time that he's taken off. I think when he relinquished the light heavyweight belt in order to bulk up and go up to heavyweight. He took like 2-3 years in between that. And then, like you mentioned, he was supposed to take on Ngannou, but he chose not to. And then he lost a year to that. I think right after he fought Cyril Gane, like he was out for like a year and a half. So, yeah, I just hope he gets his act together, but we'll see. I mean, the brother's approaching 40. You would think if anything would have come to mind as far as him getting his act together and getting on the straight path, it would have come by now. But we'll see. I just think it's so many people and so many entities that have enabled him and just allowed him to do it without much consequence, that he just feels that, oh, well, I could just keep doing this over and over again and it'll work out for me in the end. No, man. It doesn't work like that. Like, and you mentioned him like returning to combat sports in some capacity. Do you think he comes back to the UFC in some capacity if Tom Aspinall trips on a banana or and ends up losing the belt? You think he would try to come back?
I think so. I think he's like a legacy act at this point, and the same way that we saw like Stipe Miocic kind of come out of retirement for him.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him coming back. Like if somebody else is the champion, like I don't know, but like somebody else being champion, not Tom Aspinall, but somebody else. Yeah, I could see him actually being like, yeah, let me come back for one more match.
And it's the match that we don't want. The one match we wanted you for, you left. Yep. And that's the thing too. Is like, it's one thing, like you said, Stipe Miocic, who is already semi-retired. He didn't have anybody in his sights anyway. He was pretty much done. It's another thing when you actively were in the championship seat. We wanted you to fight somebody. The fans wanted it. Dana wanted it. You chose to retire, and now because like that, and that's really going to bring out those allegations. And I know he likes to troll people online and be like, "Oh, if you call me a duck, then I'll be a duck." And blah, 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 blah. But it is just like, bro, you definitely not beating the allegations if you come back after he loses the belt, or if Tom Aspinall loses the belt. I don't see him losing it anytime soon. I think his biggest competition is going to be Jonathan Almeida, and while I think Almeida is heavy-handed and does have the jiu-jitsu, I don't know, man. It's just Tom Aspinall is a different beast.
Definitely. Most definitely. And you know what, Nick? As MMA fans, I feel like we deserve a heavyweight champion who's going to be active. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I mentioned it on one of the previous episodes that, like, the thing that I hate about the Jon Jones situation is the fact that, like, it's literally stalling the entire division, right? Because, like, okay, cool, you'll fight, and you'll become number one contender. But then there's still an interim champion ahead of you. And it just makes the division so stagnant, man. So I'm glad that we finally have like an active champion who's ready to defend that gold. And I hope that we can get it back on track soon.
Now, with that in mind, when do you see Tom Aspinall fighting? Because he's supposed to be this week. He's supposed to be in attendance for UFC 317. So, what do you think? When's the soonest we could see Tom Aspinall defend that belt?
Honestly, I think it's more just a matter of like whenever the challengers might be ready. Because I genuinely do believe that Tom Aspinall has been training and been getting ready just in case Jon Jones decides, yo, let's do this thing. So I think he's ready to go. What's the closest confirmed event? Like, well, the latest confirmed event. Let me rather say that. I wonder what that is, because then that could be the determining factor with regards to when exactly we might see Tom Aspinall decide to come back. But like, I think around like maybe, I know they're like doing that big November card, Madison Square Garden, and I feel like that'll be like a great time for him to come back. I think. Yeah, so sometime in November, maybe.
Sometime in November. All right. The latest one that is showing up on UFC's website is UFC 319 in August with your boy, your countryman, DDP, Dricus du Plessis, Still Knox versus Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's also UFC 320, which is taking place on October 4th at the T-Mobile Arena. This is the event that is supposed to be the Noche UFC, but yeah,
but they don't have anybody announced.
But yeah, I do think that probably like the November card, like Madison Square Garden, I think it'll be like a great crowning moment for Tom Aspinall. And yeah, I could see that event happening.
All right, I could see that too. I don't know though. I think if he wants to fight as soon as possible, I think he would like to get on as soon as possible. Although, yeah, you said October 4th. That may be too late for him to, because I think he might at least want to get 2 fights in before the end of the year. I don't know if that's possible, but yeah, I could see November being a good date for him to come back. Especially like a year after Jon Jones wanted to is kind of like where we're moving on. It's like an official passing of the torch moment, like a year later. So, and hopefully Trump will not be anywhere near there. All right. Well, look at that. We went just over an hour talking about this man, Jon Jones. So we're going to go ahead, take ourselves a bit of a break. And then when we come back, we're going to look a little bit at the past and then jump forward to the future. We'll take a little look at the 2 main event fights from UFC 316. Because Stone Cold or because Kayla Harrison said so. And yeah, I remember her name, y'all. Now you gotta remember the name. We forgot her name on the first show. Remember that first show way back in December 2023 when I forgot Kayla Harrison's name, but now we're all remembering the name, kind of like Bilal Muhammad. We're remembering the name of Kayla Harrison. But we'll talk more about that. In addition to talking about UFC 317 with the main event being Ilia Topuria coming up 1 weight class and facing off against one of Chi-Chi's boys, Charles Oliveira. So we'll get into that and some more news right after the break coming after this. So just keep on with us, folks. Keep on with us. And I need to do intro music on it. Oh, yeah. So, like I said, we'll be with you guys right into the break. Hi. It's your boy Two-Way Ray, and I'm just coming across your earwaves and interrupting this program for a very important message from us here at Nefarious Media Network. You see, we know that you guys love helping us out. And by the way, if you're hearing that little ditty in the background and you're familiar with our work, you know that's when we start feeding the ducks around here on the parlay. But in order to continue to support programs here like the Parlay, like the Adventures Initiative, like TDT Talks and Kung Fu Island, and of course the flagship Kings of Sport podcast, we just need you guys to help us out. And there are a few ways that you can do that. You see, one way, completely free. And that's by supporting us on all of our social media channels, whether it be X/Twitter, whether it be Instagram, or whether it be even our YouTube channel while we're on the drive for 500. You can follow us on all those different platforms absolutely free. Just type in Nefarious Media Network and it should take you right to it. Other ways that you can support us, again, another way that's completely free is by sharing us with your friends, with your family, even your enemies. Everybody needs a good podcast to listen to now and then, so please make sure to spread the word. And one more way that we can continue to bring truthful, thoughtful, and turned up entertainment and education to your earlobes and to your eyeballs is by supporting us on the Patreon, patreon.com/Nefarious Media Network. You see, you can get over 300 hours of great entertainment and education, whether it be in the realms of comic books or sports, professional wrestling, politics, even on sometimes education, as Professor Chris can drop some knowledge on you every now and then. So please, it costs you $5 a month. As Brother Nate loves to say, $5 gets you in the door. If you want to pay more, we won't stop you. And while you're joining the Patreon, or while you're a part of the Patreon, be on the lookout for the perks that we offer you guys. Be on the lookout for live watches that you can directly be a part of. Also be on the lookout for exclusive audio that cannot be found anywhere else but the Patreon, including our Styles Break Fights Extra podcast, where either myself and Chi-Chi will come on the air and just give you more information about what we talked about, or if there's any breaking news in the MMA world. So please be on the lookout for those things if you're already a member. And if you're not a member, go ahead, $5 for the cost of a biggie bag, less than a biggie bag nowadays. You can be a part of this revolution as it's getting broadcasted. So we appreciate you guys for supporting us thus far. And we ask that if you're not supporting us in any of those ways that I mentioned, that you please help out the cause. As I mentioned before, the drive for 500 goes along not only with the YouTube channel, but also with the Patreon subscription. So please, if you can spare, we would really appreciate it. But if you can't, any of those free options are available as well. So with that, I thank you so very much for listening. And let's get on back to the program. Yeah. Feed those ducks. Oh, yeah. Feed those ducks. Preview of Real Summer. If we get to 500, feed those ducks. And we are back, folks. We appreciate you sticking through the commercial break. A little bit different than what we normally have.
Yep.
Yeah. Shout out to Nate. I know he usually does it, but you know what? I'm not trying to keep getting caught up by YouTube with the copyright for the music in the background, Chi-Chi. So hopefully the feet and the ducks suffice, but we always want to show our appreciation to the Godfather for everything that he does and contributes here at Nefarious Media Network. So with that, Chi-Chi, let's go ahead. We talked about Jon Jones enough and his legacy and all that good stuff. But let's talk about fighters who actually want to fight, Chi-Chi. Let's talk about fighters who actually want to get out there and win titles or defend titles, Chi-Chi. So, we had a few weeks ago, we had UFC 316, where we had Merab Dvalishvili successfully defend his men's featherweight crown against, or bantamweight crown, I should say, against Sean O'Malley. And we also had Kayla Harrison. Oh, I almost forgot the name.
Oh my God.
Kayla Harrison become the new UFC women's featherweight or women's bantamweight champion, defeating Juliana Pena by submission in the second round. So first we'll start with Merab. I know a lot of people were kind of saying, hey, we didn't really see much from Sean O'Malley before him getting this rematch. We actually saw nothing because he didn't have any fights in between his last bout against Merab and this bout against Merab. So what do you think about Merab? Do you think, I know a lot of people are already kind of christening him as the best or one of the best feather or bantamweights, I should say, to ever fight in the UFC. What say you? What do you say about his performance and about the legacy that he's stringing together?
Merab is definitely one of those that I think is a little bit underrated. Like, people know that he's good, but like it's always kind of like I think like when we're having these conversations about like the GOATs, the current, pound for pound kings and everything like that, we maybe discard him a little bit and don't really take him like into consideration. But I feel like with this fight, he kind of showcased why he's the champion and not Sean O'Malley. I mean, like a third round submission victory is, absolutely insane. And with regards to like Sean O'Malley, I'm not sure what's going on, man. Like, it's kind of like, I don't want to say that he got forechecked that time, and then since then it's just been tough. But like, I don't know. But yeah, Merab, shout out to him for that victory and kind of thinking it. But like, I'm still not sure if he's like an exciting champion, as they like to say, right? As we like to say. But shout out to him for the victory and getting the victory in like by way of finish, essentially, and not like letting it go the full 5 rounds and everything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the writing was on the wall. I think we didn't see much change in the style of Sean O'Malley, aside from him saying he was swearing off of weed and of other things and doing other things to pleasure himself. He was swearing off of those things during his fight camp to fully be focused and not dyeing his hair, to fully be focused on Merab. Outside of that, we didn't see anything as far as his fighting style that would substantiate him having much more of a chance than he did last time. I think Merab just, he stuck to his bread and butter, stayed out of danger. And I think it showed a little bit towards the first couple rounds that Sean O'Malley was kind of seeing like he was able to at least avoid some of the takedowns in the early end, but then it's just like Merab when it's legit when people talk about combat sports being a game of chess and having moves in mind, like steps in advance. And so I think Sean O'Malley was just focused on all the things that Merab did in the past fight. Merab is like 3-4 steps ahead, and like he's working on different ways, different setups for takedowns and getting you on the ground that way. So as far as him being one of the best, it's gonna take a lot for him to kind of supplant, because I believe in that. Let me see, where's the rankings? So right now we got Merab, Sean O'Malley is number 1, Umar Nurmagomedov, which their fight was decent as well, is number 2 right now. Peter Yan, number 3, Corey Sandhagen, number 4, Song Yadong, number 5, Davidson Figueiredo, number 6, Chito Vera, number 7, Rob Font, number 8, Mario Batista, for some reason it has him tied with Rob Font for number 8, which makes no sense. And then Henry Cejudo to round out the top 10 in that division. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say when I'm thinking about, because I think my mind takes me to like featherweight fighters, but when I think about bantamweight fighters, like I think what's his name? Dominic Cruz. He's like the first one that comes to mind when I think about like dominance within that division. But
Yeah.
it's like things have kind of been rocky with him with injuries. And then another person I think of is TJ Dillashaw. But then we all know, you mentioned it earlier when it comes to when Ariel mentioned, can someone really be in your top conversation or be in your GOAT conversation if you have infractions with PEDs? And we know that he's been through some stuff. So I think Cody Garbrandt could be up there, but I don't know if he's defended it enough to warrant him being like one of the greatest of all time. So I think you could, for right now, possibly slot Merab in that, but we'll see how he looks against the upcoming competition. Maybe a rematch against Umar. I mean, if they thought Sean O'Malley deserved a rematch, then I'm for sure thinking that Umar deserves a rematch.
Yeah.
Jan is going to make it back up there. Aljamain Sterling, he's out of that division since him and Merab are teammates, so can't really go by him. And even Aljamain Sterling, I guess you could kind of put it there, but not sure. Like he did avenge his loss, or it wasn't much of a loss. I think with his first fight with Peter Yan, I think got it was a no contest because of a low blow, or I think it was a disqualification. Yeah, it was a disqualification. Yeah, because it was considered, I think the referee considered it like a blatant low blow on the part of Peter Yan. So, but Aljo did come back and kind of show what he was worth in the rematch and kind of earn that championship in those people's eyes. So I think maybe an Aljo can go up there, but we all know Dana's not going to give Aljo his credit. They have their issues.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess Dana White is on his Triple H. I don't see color. But yeah, I think you could eventually. It'll depend on if he gets like just more defenses, and we were kind of in a similar boat with your boy DDP, with your boy Still Knox Premium Minute. We need to get some more of those. Chi, you ain't getting no more of those. The energy drink.
You know, Driggers ain't been sponsoring lately, man. I don't know.
Oh my god, you slacking, Still Knox. Let's get those Knox premium hydration drinks out there. But yeah, I think when we were talking about DDP, and we were and this was before his fight with Izzy, and we were kind of thinking like, is he in that realm of being one of the top middleweights yet? But then like he went through Izzy, he went through Sean O'Malley, and it was like, yeah, there's no question he's like one of the best right now as far as like in that middleweight, like in the history of that middleweight division. There's no doubt like he's if not the best, like in the top 3 as far as being one of the best, like the GOATs in that division. So I think Merab needs to show that consistency as far as beating whoever comes in front of him, and that consistency comes with him, or that consistency will lead up to him being known as one of the best in the division. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But let's go ahead down to the co-main event where we did have Kayla Harrison become the new UFC women's bantamweight champion and called out Amanda Nunes, and Amanda Nunes is ready to go. She says she's ready to come back. She's got the refocus. They used to train at the same gym. Amanda has since left American the Top Team and has her own gym. So Amanda feels more comfortable and she feels as though she could come back and take back the belt. So first off, before we get into that future fight, what do you make of Kayla's performance? And what do you make? And I should have had this up as well. Let's go with Kayla's performance first, and then we'll get on Juliana Pena afterwards. But what do you make of Kayla's performance?
Kayla's performance was great. I think a lot of us predicted that she'd probably get a submission victory, which she did in the second round, no less. But I feel like with Kayla Harrison, there was so much doubt when she first debuted in the UFC. I don't know if you remember that period, right? There was so much doubt around her because obviously in the PFL she fought at a significantly higher weight class, and then now she's dropping all the way to this division, which is bantamweight and everything like that. So there was that, but I feel like she's done so well for herself. She's proven that she can actually get it done, and now she has managed to get herself crowned the champion, and she's getting like a dream match done. Like Jon Jones could learn a thing or two from this. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, Kayla Harrison did really, really well, as expected. I think no one expected, or at least a lot of us expected the result that we ultimately got from her. So yeah, shout out to Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, shout out. She definitely earned it, and especially considering that cut, man. That cut is going to eat her alive. Like, man, when they were showing like photos and video of her like the day before in the sauna, she looked like on the brink of death. I'm not even exaggerating, Chi-Chi. The how much longer? I think she's mentioned with her talk on Ariel that she thinks she could possibly do the cut maybe another 2-3 more times.
Ooh.
I'm like, I'd be surprised if it makes it up to even that much. What say you? What's going on with this cut with Kayla? You think she could sustain this? Because she's usually walking around at like 160.
Yeah, she's a big girl.
Watch out for the big girl.
I'm not sure. Hey, I'm not sure if she can sustain it. Hey, but also at the same time, like what other choice is there? Because if we look at like reviving like the featherweight division, sorry, it's a matter of like it'll only be her and like Amanda Nunes, I think, unless the UFC puts in some sort of plan to actually get in more women in the featherweight division. But I don't know, man. I feel like she's just gonna have to like. I just hope that we don't get to a point where we see Kayla Harrison also be like, you know what, there's a lack of competition and the weight cut is just a lot, right? Or like premier competition and the weight cut is a lot, and so she decides, yeah, I think I'm done for now, guys. I'm just hoping that we don't get beat. But with the weight cut and everything like that, like you say, I think it'll be definitely difficult to sustain. So yeah, there's that.
All right. So let's go over real quick before we get into the future possibilities for Kayla Harrison. Let's go over to the woman who faced her that night, the former two-time UFC women's bantamweight champion, Juliana Pena. So while I'll give her credit for promoting the fight and talking her stuff, no matter what you want to say about the trash that she talks, she always believes 100%. I don't think it's an act. I don't think she's just saying it just for the cameras. I truly believe that she has that self-confidence in herself to where she believes every word that comes out of her mouth. And even when everybody else is like, nah, it ain't gonna work out there. Like, girl, who you trying to fool? Are you trying to convince yourself? Like, we all know this girl Kayla is like a doggone steamroller. She's just ready to roll over. But Juliana Pena has that self-belief. And I think that's what led her to beat Amanda Nunes that first time that they fought, is just that self-belief and that self-confidence. But on the flip side, she gave several reasons why she did not necessarily come out on her best foot during that fight. So let me go ahead and share the screen, and I'll go ahead and play a little bit of what she shared.
What were you dealing with?
Sure. So in about the second week of May, I want to say I broke my thumb on my training partner, and it was swollen. It looked like somebody had hit me in the hand with a hammer. And it was really difficult to grip. It still is right now, very difficult to grip, and to have grip strength. So that was a big one. But then about a week and a half after that, I took a really bad, no, not a week and a half after that, the 29th of May, I took a really bad fall in the octagon, and I tore my elbow and broke off like a ton of bone chips so that I wasn't able to straighten my arm or bend my arm fully. And so I worked on that for a few days before I left to fight week. But every day it was just worse and worse and worse. And it looked like somebody whacked me in the back of the elbow with a baseball bat. It was just so swollen. And the MRI, the x-rays showed a tear, and it showed a lot of bone chips in the back of that. So I got going into a fight 10 days out after having a tear like that and all those bone chips and, just having the wear and tear from the golfer's elbow and the cauliflower elbow on both sides. It's just excruciating. And it's very painful. It's hard to throw a punch. It's hard to extend. It's hard to grip. It's hard to bend. And it's just all around very painful. And I'm having surgery for that in July, and I'm going to clean that up. So looking forward to getting that done. But
cauliflower elbow. I have never heard of that's what I wanted to stop right. It's like you coming up with all the who are you, like the man on the concentration board game where you got this and this and this? And so I wanted to pose the question to you, Chi Chi. Do you think, because I'm trying to stop myself from saying these are a bunch of excuses, and I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because I know that, again, she's tough as nails, and I know that whatever she says, she's going to have that self-belief in herself, even if everybody else doubts her. And I think later in the interview, she mentions about her being on the Ultimate Fighter with Ronda Rousey, and Ronda Rousey pretty much telling the contestants or the fighters, you have to be the best on your worst day. So I can see that, but especially with you kind of outlining all of these injuries that happened to you, not 3 months out, not 6 months. You talking about 2 weeks out, before you even go for fight week, you saying that you tore ligaments in your elbow. So I want to pose this to you, Chi Chi. Do you think, and I think I might know the answer to this from your end. Do you think it's much beneficial for fighters to fight through injuries and then come out on the back end and say all this stuff that happens? Or do you think, in the case of Arman Tsarukyan, who, I think I'm just going to pull out because I can't make it to fight night. What do you think is more advantageous for these fighters to do? And I know there's on one end more advantageous for the fighter with their health, and on the other end is more advantageous for what happens with the fighter under the UFC, under their gaze, under the gaze of Dana White. So what do you think is more, what do you think should be more considered, or what do you think should be more the norm?
I would definitely say that if you're not, obviously, you know what, I know that these fighters always say that you never really go into the cage at 100%, right? There's always something that's an issue, right? But like, if it's something that's so niggly or whatever that you feel like it's going to affect your performance, rather pull out of the fight. That's my personal opinion. Rather pull out of the fight, because when you lose, we don't want to hear this, all of these excuses and everything like that. Good off of it. I'm good off of it. Okay, please, like, rather just pull out. Especially like, much like you just said, right? Like, what she's telling us that, like, 2-3 weeks out from fight week, she's going through this and this, and then she, like, a week and a half later, she suffers this also. Girl, rather pull out if you feel as though you're not going to be operating at your base. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to now having that in your back pocket and thinking, okay, I'm going to have an excuse then, or like, this is the reason why, I didn't get the W or whatever. Because I also feel like the opponent, right? The opponent, like a Kayla Harrison in this situation, deserves to have you at as close to 100% as possible, right? You owe that to your opponent, you owe that to the fight fans and everything like that. This whole thing just really, really annoys me, and I don't like it. I really don't like it when fighters try to be like, oh no, I wasn't at 100%. I had this and this and this and this, all of these afflictions and everything like that. Pull out then. Like, please, like, be our guest, pull out, top vibe. But yeah, that's just how I feel about it. Obviously, like I'm saying, no one's gonna go in there fully 100%. So if it's like something minor, then I think you can still fight. But like, if it's something that you genuinely feel as though it's going to impact the way that you perform and stuff like that, rather pull out. Save us all the trouble and just pull out of the fight. Yeah. How do you feel about it?
I feel the exact same way. The thing, though, and I kind of alluded to it when I was posing a question to you, like, that's the way you should be doing it for the best as far as looking out for your own health and your own safety. And I think later on she mentions in the interview that same elbow that had golfer's elbow and cauliflower elbow was the arm that Kayla Harrison almost ripped off her body with the Kimura. So it's like, well, you shouldn't even went in there knowing that could have been a possibility. And you were like 10 seconds away from the round ending and you couldn't make it through because of that injury. And now it cost you. And like you said, don't come out on the back end and say, well, I went in because of this and because of that, because that just makes you sound like a sore loser for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's like, at least just give Kayla her due. Just say, hey, there were some things that went on during my camp, but I take no credit away from Kayla. She did what she was supposed to do. And I came out there. The doctors cleared me. I came out there. I did the best I could. And I just fell short that night. Like, that's how it should be. But to talk all the trash at the beginning, and again, warranted for her because she has that self-belief, but then on the back end have these reasons as to why you didn't go into the fight 100%. Like you said, almost all fighters say they go into fights less than 100%. But like you said as well, if you felt as though it's going to compromise your performance, then you might as well sit out. But in the terms of how the UFC is going to look at you when it comes to pulling out of that fight, that's a different story. And that's why I think it's more advantageous for her to go in that fight, because even if you do come out of this fight and you lose and you come out with these excuses, Dana is still going to be like, all right, well, you came out to fight, so we'll put you in another position to get back into that championship picture. Whereas what we're seeing with Arman Sarukian, it's been like, what, maybe 8 months since he was supposed to fight for the belt. He hasn't fought at all since. They don't even have any, like, they could have put him in there as far as having him challenging either your boy Charles the Bronx or have him challenging Ilya for the because he's the rightful number one contender. They could have him in that interim or in that vacated championship bout. But because he pulled out he didn't feel as though he could go into that fight with Islam at his very best. He pulled out. And so now Dana White is like, oh, I can't trust him. I can't, regardless of the man's actual health, is like, oh, I can't trust him. I can't rely on him. He pulled out on the fight. Oh, I don't know if he could do it. And now we see he's way on the back burner, and they're putting in somebody who's coming up from a lower division against a guy who is a former champion, but is not the number one contender right now. Like he got beat by the number one contender. Sorry, Chi-Chi. He got beat by the number one contender. So yeah, I think is very strategic on how you play that. And again, like, I don't think Dana's going to be like, oh, you're whining and you shouldn't have come to fight, did he? You're whining after the fact that your arm was jacked up. You shouldn't have even came to fight. Now Dana's be like, oh, she fought hurt. All right. She did her best. We'll have like a up and coming fighter waiting for her. And then if she gets past that, then we'll get her right back into the title picture. Especially considering that Juliana does promote fights. Outwardly. So I think it's a real hard decision to make when you're in that, when you're in it and when you're like a week away. It's like, do I pull the trigger on this? So yeah, I hope Armand gets it together, and I hope he's able to fight soon and challenge for the belt soon. So we'll see what happens in that particular case. But before we go on to that lightweight championship being crowned, one more thing with Kayla. So again, we had Kayla call out Amanda Nunes. How do you see this fight happening between the two, if it does end up happening?
This will probably be the biggest women's bout in recent memory, first of all. As for the fight itself, man, Kayla Harrison is a beast in there. But I feel like there's a reason why Amanda Nunes went out on top, right? She proves that there's levels to this. So I would, like, an early prediction on my side, I would go with Amanda Nunes coming through with the victory. Yeah. How do you feel about the fight, and who do you think would walk away with the W?
Well, I think there's so many unknown variables. It's kind of like Amanda did go out on top, but she's been out for a while. And so, that ring rust, unless your name is Dominic Cruz, that ring rust can catch up with you. So it's like, does she have that killer instinct back? Because I think, and I've never been an MMA fighter yet. I think my bucket list is to go in there one time, but then I'm going to be in the heavyweight division, and that's going to be hard to do. But I digress. From what I see and how I've been studying through my viewing of the sport, it's hard to keep that killer instinct and that edge when you're off for a while. Like it's easier to sustain it when you do have people coming up in a consistent manner and you're just taking out people left to right. It's easier to kind of sustain that killer instinct. So it'll be interesting to see if Amanda Nunes can recapture that killer instinct and that killer mindset that she had from when she was the champion. With Kayla, I think the thing is with Amanda Nunes, or the thing is I'll say with Kayla, is that a lot of people, they think they have the blueprint. They think they're like, if I could get Kayla out of round 2 and we could get into rounds 3 and then the championship rounds, that I feel like I have a chance. We haven't seen that work out many times against Kayla. We have seen it work out once with your girl Pacheco. Shout out to Pacheco over there in PFL. But I think with Amanda Nunes, the thing is with her, it's a similar thing with her. It's like, if you can get Amanda Nunes outside of the rounds 3, 4, and 5, you have a better chance. So I think it'll be interesting to see what gives in first. Well, Kayla, especially due to like the hard cut, will she gas out a little bit sooner than normal, especially with her trying to work in? Because it's one thing where you fight a girl like Juliana Pena, or a woman like Juliana Pena, who you pretty much look like you're in an entirely different weight class than, as opposed to fighting an Amanda Nunes, who is in her own right pretty big for that weight class and is the former featherweight champion as well. By the way, that division just gone to the wayside with no mention. Nobody said anything. So I think if it's at 135, if the fight's at 135, I got Nunes winning, because I think Nunes can stay on her feet. She can keep the distance a little bit better than a Juliana Pena, who's a wrestler who wants to get in close, but that doesn't work against a judo player who's like 15, 20 pounds heavier than you. Yeah. I think Amanda Nunes's striking is more refined to kind of keep Kayla at bay. So I think I'll go with Amanda as well if the fight's at 135 for the 135 title. Now, we can see if they want to make a BMF belt.
Oh my God, no.
For 145. No. And then I think we're really in for a really like a slobber knocker, as Brother JR Jim Ross would say. Make a women's BMF belt for 145. I can see it happening. One time only, one night only. I can see it happening.
Oh my God. But you know what? I could actually see that happening, especially because they are people, both Amanda and, Kayla, have dominated in that division, right? And so they're comfortable being. And so it's like also a mega fight beyond just the 135-pound title. So I could actually see that happening. But I don't think we need another BMF title. Oh my God, no.
And you'll have Kayla at her best, because I think even though she's able to make the cut, I don't think that's her best if she has to cut down and then regain and rehydrate all of that like a day before. I think 145 is a little closer to her being at her absolute peak. So we'll see. And I echo your sentiments. I think it would be the biggest women's championship fight, or biggest women's fight in a while, maybe since Amanda and Amanda and Ronda.
Yeah.
Back. So
I gotta agree with that.
Yeah, because I don't think there's been a women's fight ever since. Like, I mean, Amanda Juliana won, but yeah, it was okay. I mean, it was a big upset, but nobody was clamoring to see Juliana win, I would say. But I think as far as star power, I think definitely between Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey was like the biggest. And even before that with Ronda and Holly. But yeah, I think this will be the biggest since those fights. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. So before we go on to pretend the future, Sister Chi-Chi, I know that things have been a little quiet on the end of your continent as far as with the fight sports. I know you mentioned going out to see a bit of boxing. So and I was checking out your stories too, enjoying yourself. That's good. I'm all for my partner enjoying herself out there. But you did mention that one thing that you wanted to bring up in your Maestro's Minute was Joaquin Buckley, who had an opportunity to kind of solidify himself inside the welterweight contendership sphere. But Kamaru Usman, one of the three kings, he was able to take advantage and pretty much just wrestle through Joaquin Buckley, even with no knees, as people were trying to accuse him of. But was able to wrestle through Joaquin Buckley for the better part of the 5 rounds. I think the 5th round, Buckley was trying to figure out, or was finally figuring out how to stop the takedowns, and was trying to take advantage from there, but it was too little too late. So what do you say for your fellow African king, Kamaru Usman, getting back on the winning end after, I believe, 3 straight losses, 2 to Leon Edwards and 1 to Khamzat Chimaev, albeit in the middleweight division? What do you say about him getting back on the winning end?
Yeah, I think I saw this other post, right, where it was like, this was Kamaru Usman's first win since November 2021, I think. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, that's wild. But yeah, as you guys know, Kamaru Usman's my boy, you know, one of the 3 African kings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was here for it. It was a great comeback story for us to see him just straight up dominate, you know. And I'm actually kind of glad that he used the full scope of the 5 rounds, right, to like get that win, shut down all the naysayers, and also just prove that he still belongs in this division, and he still belongs in that conversation of like the GOATs and who are currently competing. As for Joaquin Buckley, I really, really do like him. And every time I think of Joaquin Buckley, I always think of like that knockout that he had over Impa Kasanganai when Impa was still in the UFC. That stellar knockout that he had. Yeah. And I'm always hoping that he doesn't do it to my face. So yeah. But I mean, it's a great year for me. And all my girls, because, you know, Alexander Volkanovski got his first win in God knows how long. Kamaru Usman also got his first win in God knows how long. So yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And with regards to the welterweight division, I feel like so much has changed in that division. Leon Edwards is no longer at the top. Bilal Muhammad is no longer at the top. And so I feel like there's definitely space for Kamaru Usman to once again reclaim the throne. But I think it was a great showing. I think it was a great match for him. And yeah, just straight up dominance. I was here for it. But how did you feel about that fight? And what do you think is next for Usman?
Well, I think Usman stuck with his bread and butter. I think it was up to, because it's always when you have a fighter who you know what they're going to do. And granted, we know that Kamaru has heavy hands as well, but we know that his bread and butter is taking you down, battering you on bottom, hitting some ground and pound, maybe pulling out a choke every now and then, but just getting your back to the mat is what he specializes in. And so it's up to the opponent to figure out ways on how to stop that from happening. And while I believe Joaquin Buckley is very fight smart, like I think by looking through like his IG and just seeing him kind of give his thoughts on fights, like he's very, very intelligent, especially when it comes to the fighting game and having that fight IQ. And so you would think, like, in the moment, like as he's going through it, especially with his coaches, even if he's not thinking about it, you would think his coaches would be like, hey, you gotta get yourself out of these positions where he's able to get your back against the cage and get you down. Like you got to stay out of open space and keep them from like getting a hold of you, because a lot of that during the fight was, I think it was Kamaru getting a hold of a leg, and instead of Joaquin trying to wrestle out of it, Joaquin is trying to hit strikes and stuff while Kamaru is still on a leg, and then Kamaru just uses that to come up and either get you against the cage to put you down, or he's able to get his hands together and get you down that way. And I think Joaquin started picking that up in the 5th round, but again, too little, too late. I think it's the coach's jobs to see those flaws and to correct those in between rounds. I think his coaches kind of did him a disservice in that aspect, but also like you got to have that feel when you're in the cage as it's going on as well. So I think Joaquin has mentioned it before. He kind of feels a bit embarrassed by it, but hopefully this makes him stronger. He's still relatively young when it comes to the fight game, and I think he'll be better for it. As far as what's next for Kamaru, I don't see him challenging for a title belt anytime soon because you have a lot of guys who are in that top realm who are kind of strong with wrestling already too, or are strong with takedown defense when it comes to your new champion, Jack Della Maddalena, when it comes to a Bilal. You don't have too many who are in that upper echelon. And when you have like an Islam coming up, who may be small, but he still has the wrestling pedigree. Those Dagestani boys, they're going to have their wrestling intact. So I think it's going to make it that much harder for Kamaru to try to break that ceiling and get to that title again. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's going to be a really not rough road ahead, but it's going to be a lot more challenging than he may think it is. But I'm sure he's up to the challenge. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. Well, with that, we'll go into our last story. And I think it's going to be in and out. I think it's going to be real quick because we all know who Chi-Chi's going to go for. We mentioned the UFC lightweight championship being vacated by one Islam Makhachev so that he can go up and challenge for the UFC welterweight championship that we just mentioned as well. So, 2 fighters who are going to be taking on each other this coming Saturday, June 28th, will be none other than a former UFC lightweight champion, Charles Oliveira, taking on the former UFC featherweight champion who vacated the belt himself to go up and challenge for the lightweight strap. So, first off, before we get to who you got, because again, we all know Chi-Chi is biased. So we all know her pick. But I do want to express this to you because I think that this sentiment was kind of toyed around with online. The notion that Islam is running from Ilia Topuria. What do you say about those allegations?
Oh my God. I saw a few of those things, especially when like Jon Jones was still around. People were like, "Yeah, UFC is becoming Duck City at this point, my guy."
Duck City, Duck.
But I think the UFC no longer allowing people to become double champions is certainly the thing that's adding these hectic situations and everything like that, where people then are like, "Oh, let me just move up instead," and everything like that. But with Islam, because I mean, with Ilia, to be fair, it's not like Ilia's already cleared out his entire division, right? As champion, let me put it like that. But at the same time, Ilia was moving up to come meet Islam, right? And have that dream match and everything like that. Only for Islam to be like, nope, bye. Subvide. So it does kind of feel a little bit like that, King. Like a little bit like, yo, why can't you just stick around and like just, give him the fight. And then after that, then you can decide, yo, I actually want to move. Subvide. So yeah, I do kind of believe that there is some merit to those claims of ducking on the part of Islam. Yeah, I do believe it. Do you believe that there's any merit to it, or do you think it just happened that like everyone just moved?
I mean, I think there's a little bit of merit there. And I think we talked about this during the last episode. Like some people tried to turn it around on Ilia and say, well, people could accuse you of ducking too. And I kind of thought about it during our time between episodes. And I'm like, yeah, because I would much rather have a more less challenging fight against a guy who's the pound for pound number one fighter in the world right now, Islam Makhachev. I would rather have that. That's an easier fight than, say, a Diego Lopez.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought about it as like I don't think there's much merit behind the claim of Ilya ducking, but I can also see that I don't think there's like with Islam going up, like you're going up a weight class facing guys who you've never fought before. So I think that I don't take that as a ducking because there's not like a lesser challenge once you get up there. Like I think Della Maddalena is going to be really hard to overtake, especially with his takedown defense. So while I do see a little bit there because it's like Islam had nobody else in the division but Ilya coming up, and no offense, Chi to your boy, but except for maybe again, as we talked about Arman Sarukian, like Islam was ready to fight him. Arman couldn't make it. Arman had to pull out. And so I just think Islam saw, well, there's not much challenge. I mean, why would I fight a guy? I already did that. I already tried to let a featherweight come up here. It was a tough fight. I overtook him during the first fight. I knocked him out the second fight. I'm not letting these little guys come up here and try to take my throne again. Again, no offense to you, Chi. I know Alex Volkanovski, another one of your boys. So yeah, I see it a little bit, but I'm not going to fully call him out. I'm not going to fully put the bill on him. I'm not fully going to start feeding them breadcrumbs out in the lake and calling him a duck. So yeah, he's not going to be one of the ducks that we feed on the parlay. So I'm not going to fully call him a duck.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but with that being said, who you got, Chi? Ilia Topuria or Charles Oliveira? Shock me.
This match does make me very nervous because Ilya is that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Charles Oliveira has done it before, and I feel like he will do it once again. He knows what it takes to get it done, and this is his division, right? Whereas for Ilya, of course, this is him coming up, and yeah, sure, the weight might not be too much of an influencing factor, but like it could have some sort of impact. He's a smaller guy already and everything like that. So yeah, I'm going with Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Yeah, I'm gonna go with him. I'm gonna stick with my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Surprise. All right. Well,
who are you going with?
I'm gonna counter you a little bit.
God.
Even if it's just for the entertainment for those listening to the show, I gotta put back just a little bit, Chi. So I do see where you're coming from with Charles Oliveira and with him being there before. I can also see the argument about the weight change for Ilya.
Yeah.
Thing is with Ilya, I counted him out too many times before. Like I kind of counted him out during him facing Alex Volkanovski. I kind of counted him out against Max Holloway. I don't know, man. I think just like, again, as we were talking about with Dricus du Plessis, it's like it's only so many times I could count you out and then you supersede those expectations to where I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just need to start putting my money on this guy. So I do think that the weight is going to be a factor, but I think with the youth of Ilya compared to Oliveira being through so many wars and with the movement that Ilya has in that cage, just creating angles for his striking. I don't think it's anything that Oliveira has faced lately. So I think I might have to go with Ilya. I'm sorry, Chichi.
Oh my God.
I hope we're still
Okay,
friends after this.
You heard it here first, guys. Two-way Ray, just choosing to go the other way. Come on now.
It's for the viewership. We're trying to get the viewer numbers up. We're trying to get the listener numbers up. If we clash every once in a while, maybe we can get some people listening.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a really good fight. And
same.
Let me see. Let me check out the rest of that card. So, of course, like I said, we got that at the main bill. We got that at the top of the charts as the main event. We also got the UFC Flyweight Championship being on the line as champion Alexandre Pantoja takes on Kai Kara France. We got Brandon Royval taking on Joseph Vaughn in that UFC Flyweight division. We got Beneil Dariush, perennial lightweight contender, taking off Hanato Moicano, Money Moicano. And then to round out the main card, we got Peyton Talbot, who's making, I believe this is his main card debut. He's been on a roll lately, especially with the knockout.
Oh my God.
So he'll be taking on Felipe Lima to round out the main card. So any of those fights standing out to you, Chichi?
Peyton Talbot, definitely. Just him though. Because I feel like he's definitely like the next big thing in that division. And so like shout out to him, and I think that he's gonna do the most. But also that flyweight title bout. I think I'm kind of sort of hoping that Kai Kara France wins, just because I don't want to say that Alexander has been a boring champion, but like I feel like we need something big to happen in the flyweight division, and Kai Kara France could just deliver that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can see the same. I think Kai Kara France has bounced back from big losses to kind of get himself back into this position, and I think Pantoja. I think we're kind of used to the flyweight division kind of being like understated, especially seeing as though Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson was reigning for so long at the time. And then we had Henry Cejudo for a cup of coffee, but then he was in and out once he went up to 135 full time. And then we had Davison Figueiredo, who was exciting and who was kind of bringing some eyeballs, and then his rivalry with I forgot my brother's name, Brandon Moreno. Them going back and forth with one another was making for terrific fights anytime they clashed against one another. And then Alexandre Pantoja kind of slipped in through the back door. I believe he beat Moreno in a decent fight between the two. And like you said, he's been pretty quiet in his fights, and he hasn't been making making many statements to show that he's the true hands down best in the division, but he's been able to string performances together to where he's been able to show that on any given night that he could beat anybody, even though he's not doing it in a flashy manner. So I think it's Kai Kara France's time as well. I do think this is his time to take hold of that division. And I think it's been a while. I think he's been in the UFC for a while. It's kind of low key how long he's been in the UFC, considering how young he is too. So I think it's his time as well. So, and yeah, I'm definitely excited about Talbot as well. And I think he's a very decent personality too. It's like he's not like crazy out there, but he'll give you something, and he's very talkative. He's very articulate, and the brother, he's very, very, very good. And I think it's going to take somebody that can get him down on the ground and can kind of nullify the striking. But when the striking's on point, he can knock out anybody in that division. So we'll see what happens with him. I have high hopes as well for young Peyton Talbot. But with that, we're going to go ahead and close out this June 2025 installment of the Styles Break Fights podcast. As always, Chi-Chi, it's a pleasure talking to you. You want to let the people know where they can find you, anything coming up for you involving either your YouTube channel or involving EFC, who you are very intricately linked with.
Yeah, now with EFC has an event coming up, EFC 125 on the 3rd of July. PFL Africa 1 is drawing closer and closer. I will be at that event, so if you're there, shout out. Come through and say hi. What to do?
Don't be a creep, but be respectful. Don't be a creep. No.
Yeah. But other than that, you can find me at @ChinyereOkafa_ on all social medias. I am finally on Blue Sky, but I cannot for the life of me tell you what my handle is on Blue Sky. But I am there. So I don't know if you can find me, but I haven't done anything there. But yeah, man, I send prayers, guys. I've been going through it this winter. I've been going through it, dealing with a bit of a viral ear infection, but pray for me. But yeah, other than that, I guess there's really nothing happening on my side. Ray, always a pleasure to be doing this with you every month. Where can the people find you, and what have you got going on?
Well, lately I've just been directing people over the Nefarious Media Network. You don't have to worry about following me personally because I'm trying to put everything throughout the network. You know what I'm saying? So we've got a lot of things in store. We had a lot of things from this past month that we were getting into. If you're aware of the NBA finals for basketball over here in the States, we did a live watch of the entire full series of games. I'm about to call them matches, like football over there where you from. But basketball games over here in America, USA. But yeah, for each game throughout that final series to crown a world champion, we did a live watch. Myself and for the most part, brother Nate Milton joined me, as well as other guests who tuned in. We're going to have a live watch coming up. By the time you guys hear this, it should be on the day that we record. So this will be Tuesday. Tomorrow will be Wednesday, June 25th. June 25th is going to be the NBA draft. So we had the close of the season on this past Sunday, and we have the unofficial open of the next season, in which we have the first round of the NBA draft, where folks from college and overseas will get drafted to different teams, and we start seeing the future of some of these teams being developed throughout the draft. So we're going to be doing a live watch of the first round of the draft on this coming Wednesday, tomorrow. Again, if you're listening to this tomorrow, or if you're listening to this further in the future, then go back and watch the live watch if you weren't able to catch it live. But that's what we're doing. Always can find me here on Styles Break Fights. You can always find me on the proper Kings of Sport podcast, as well as any other episodes. I was a recent guest on Ring Theory with our boys Gerard Downtown Brown and upper mid card Jay Lacey, as they're previewing SummerSlam and King and Queen of the Ring, if it happens. So we'll see what happens in that aspect. But yeah, you can always find me here, right here on the Nefarious Media Network. And as I mentioned during the commercial break, please, folks, if you got anything to spare, first, if you got time to spare, and it's free of charge. Go ahead, like us on all, or subscribe to us on all social media platforms, whether it be X, Instagram, YouTube, youtube.com/Nefarious Media Network 2025. And if you got a little bit of change in your pocket, go ahead and subscribe to us as a patron on patreon.com/Nefarious Media Network. We're on the drive for 500 subscribers on both Patreon and YouTube. That'll help us go a long way as far as with the Patreon. That'll go a long way to helping support us behind the scenes, get some more people who want to be paid, get them a part of, if they're not already a part of what we're doing, to get them a part of it. And if they are a part of it, we start compensating folks behind the scenes and also bringing more production value into it and getting more equipment so that this is sustainable and that we can continue to flourish and to thrive as we are continuing to embark on our first year here as Nefarious Media. So please help out any way you can. Also with the 500 for YouTube, that'll help us get even more closer to monetizing that. So that way you don't have to go outside. If you don't want to go to Patreon, then we can have the YouTube memberships, and then you can have everything under one umbrella in YouTube as well. So please,
yes, sir.
If you don't mind supporting, go ahead. If you can spare it, go ahead and support us. If you want to keep it free to where you're not paying anything at all, go ahead, support us on YouTube, support us on all of our other social media platforms. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close on out. So thanks again to my partner in crime, Chi-Chi, joining me.
Shout out, Ray.
Thank you. On another installment, June 2025 edition of the Spinning Black Fist, nay, Styles Break Fights podcast.
Yes, sir.
Once again, I've been your boy, Two-Way Ray.
And I've been your girl, the maestro, Chi-Chi.
Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you back here next month on another installment of the Styles Break Fight podcast. Until then, God bless you. God keep you. Peace out.